Oh, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting again. I think quickly I'll say thank you very much to all the numbers of you who've recently subscribed onto the channel, and I hope you found something to interest you. I'm delighted that you have subscribed. Thank you very kindly. To those of you who are visiting for the first time, do feel free to press the button marked subscribe. I think it comes up in a little square box in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. After I think a couple of minutes or something, you can do something special with YouTube to make it do that. If you do see that, please do press the subscribe button. It will give you notifications of when I bring out some more modelling meanderings, as it were. I'd be more than happy to see you again, and as I said before, thank you very much to those of you who have done so in the recent past, and to my, shall we say, older and bolder subscribers, thanks very much for coming back again. Good to hear from you in the comments, all of you, as ever. Just spotted something I want to put out of harm's way there. We'll talk about that another time. Anyway, so back we are to the Canberra. I'm going to do a B Mark II, as you will remember, the last time around we got the fuselage sealed up and glued up and so on, and so the next major challenge will be to get rid of all of these seam lines. I've started to have a look at that. They won't show too much after I've done. I'll anoint them with a little bit of Mr. Surfacer, probably 500, and then I can rub that off with Mr. Colour Leveling Thinner on a little Q-tip or cotton bud, one of these things, and just rub side to side, and it just leaves the Mr. Surfacer in the gap, and the gap disappears, and you don't have to do too much in the way of sanding, because I want to really keep sanding dust out of here. Now, as one thing you will see, if I just zip in on this a little bit, is that these little handles, the ejection pull handles here, often get slightly moved. So it's a good idea before we put the canopy on to make sure they're in the right place, because once you get that canopy on, of course, there's no changing it, is there? So we'll do that, but that's done, and we can leave our concentration away from that for a while and move back to other things. Now, as you can see in the background here, we've moved on from this section here. We're looking at the wings. I've had the wings off the sprues, although I haven't cleaned them up fully, and I've marked up some of the numbers for various things, of which more later. But I have taken the opportunity to manufacture the engine nacelles for both I think Rolls-Royce Avon engines. Depending upon which mark you want to do, whether it's a B Mark 6 or a B Mark 2, you have different engines, so they're outwardly visibly different in each. I'm doing this version here, the B Mark II. So I thought, well, I'll put those together, which you can do, and then you can put these together. These vent pipes, these outlet pipes, are the same. The exhaust manifolds, or the thrust cones, whatever you want to call them, are the same for both variants, although I'm going to have to make some changes here, because the thickness of these walls here is way over what it should be, to be honest with you. So I'm going to have to just grind that down so that they're thinner to the appearance. Otherwise, it doesn't really look very realistic. You can't see in there, but there is actually some detail in there, so it's not particularly easy to see, but not without a strong light and various things. So anyway, we'll do that. Just a word of caution on these, the seams are difficult to get rid of. This thickness of this wall here is rather a long way over scale, so what I'm going to do with that, and I've started, as you've probably seen, to do that already, is to use one of these efforts here, one of these whizzy grinding devices, to carefully take that surface out, and it's simply just a question of, we'll switch that on a minute and show you. Simply just a question of gently going in there and then going around like that. Don't dig too much, because what will happen is the tool will snag and you'll end up damaging various things. And you can do what's called up milling or down milling with this, because it's not a high stress environment, and just go round and round and round it until that front part of that nacelle is thinned off to the level that you're really content with, that is scale size. It will need to be rounded off as well, by the way, apart from a very small flat in the middle of it. So this just makes the whole presentation look a little more realistic. A word of caution, by the way, about the inside of these nacelles here. There are some ejector pin marks which you will need to take off. There are no locator pins on these either, so it's kind of worthwhile making certain that you get these set up straight. I tend to put them on there and then push them against that. Let's just zero out so you can see that. I zero out like that and show you that I push them against a straight surface there and then onto a straight surface there, and that means that these things come out reasonably flat and square, although there's going to need to be some fitting done there, and maybe we'll look at that. The wingtip fuel tanks, if I'm going to be quite truthful and brutally honest, are really not very good. As you can see, the fits are, well, they're appalling actually. They're very bad indeed. These things don't match up well, and there's gaps here, yawning great gaps, and if you're not careful you get steps and things like this. It's the same for both of them, quite honestly, and I'm going to depict the Canberra that was used as the chase plane for the TSR2 XR219 and its maiden flight, and that didn't use the wingtip fuel tanks, and was also coloured differently to the standard aircraft. That means I'm going to have to fill that little hole up on both wings. That's not a problem at all, so we'll just do that and have done with it. And I think actually the aircraft will look quite attractive without them anyway, to be honest with you. So we're just readying ourselves for these. In terms of the wings, we need to look at the undercarriage wells, and I started to show you a little bit of that earlier on, and I will indicate what I'm going to do sort of here forward from this. Let's move that out of the way a minute. So we'll just tip them out. These are the oleo legs and the and these bits and pieces. So I mentioned the last time that I would start work on the hydraulic pipe work, and let's zero out again and show you this again. You can see the main part of this, the most noticeable part, will be this pipe that tracks a path down there like that and across and then up and then across. I've not worked that one across there, but we can do something clever with that. There's also another pipe that goes down there which will be particularly noticeable, and once we put in the oleo legs, of course, there'll be pipe work coming from here, which is this side here, across to there. So what I've decided and resolved to do here is I'm going to do the major parts one after the other, and there's a reason for that, which is that of course you can see that these are mirror images of one another, so everything goes 180 degrees the other way round each time. So we'll take a look at putting this pipe work into this side in a minute, but I just wanted to show you how this all fit together here, and you can see how that's come in there. I've achieved a slight overlap here that you can see, and this sits in here and then out there, and this hole here is a useful place to give you an anchoring point so that you can get everything to fit up and match terribly nicely here. It doesn't have to be absolutely dead straight, absolutely no need for that. I mean, at an arm's length look, and it's not going to, it's not going to look bad at all. This will be coloured white, and this will be coloured black, so it's not going to be a problem. And undercarriage oleo leg goes there, so we can then run these things in quite easily. And what I will do as well is I'm going to put the oleo leg on before I fit this in, because it will be very easy to, that's the wrong side, it will be very easy to put this in this fashion, and it will be rather more difficult to put pipe work in once you've got all this stuff located. So I resolve, let's do all the pipe work whilst this is open. It'll make it much easier, much simpler to do, and then we'll put these Johnsons in here, so this hydraulic ram here in there like that, and tidy that up, put the pipe work in running up to here. There'll be the undercarriage door here, and then the wheel here. So quite a lot of this detail will be hidden, but we might as well do it, just like we did with the TSR2. So there we go on that one. So what I'll do is I'll put those there like that. In fact, I won't actually, because it's a good idea to have this section here available to you, so that you can, when you look at the other one, you can match them up, because as I said, these are 180 degrees out of kilter from one another. So this looks the same, and that's the other way around, as you can see. So we have to kind of have our wits about us on this. So I've made a start on that, and we'll achieve that slight overlap at that end there. So what we need to do then is to get to this end here and then bend that slightly down. So I have a specific set of bending, shall we say bending pliers, but they're just a pair of steady tweezers. They're quite strong, so I can use them, and we can just grasp the carefully grasp these, you know, in the right position, and give a bend as we see fit. So I can now look at this. I can start to fit this in here. So that hole there, that fits slightly up like that, just slightly, not a lot, and then I can take a grip here. So we'll just take a little grip here, turn that through 90 degrees there, so that we get the bend right, and then we can just make a little bend in this like this, and that's reasonably sharp there. So now we have that bend hopefully at the right level. So what we can do is we can test that by poking it in the hole, so to speak. It doesn't seem to want to go in there, so let's try again. There we go, look. There we are, look. So what we can then do is just slightly prod that down a little bit, just bend that a little bit more sharply, and then with any luck that should be resting on that rib there, so that we can move to the next. I'm having some trouble locating the piece of wire into the small hole that I've made. That's because I can't see it particularly well, because my close-in vision isn't as good as you might want it to be. So what we'll do here, because that's not quite in the right place. No, it's not bad actually. That's fine. You can move this up and down, and you get a differing attachment point. But I can bend that like that, and I can further change the attachment point as I choose. So we'll just open that out just a little bit, and there we go. There we go. So that's where we want that. So we now know that this goes down here and fits just above the second, or just about level with the second rib. You can see that there. So now what I can do is I can go down to there, make sure I get my parallax about right. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but if we can make it good enough, that's a good place to be. So I can bend that to that level there, and remember, copper's quite ductile, it's quite malleable, and so we can get this, you know, fairly right. It's much more difficult to do this with lead, because lead's just so soft, it just goes all over the bloody place. You just can't do it with any sense. You know, so I would suggest use lead wire for straight on, you know, bits and pieces. So that's perfect there, that looks good. So now we want to go to the next bit, which is this rib up here, and then bend on that side. So we'll just take that there like that. Right, I've got to do that again because I hit that light there, and that's annoying. So we'll just insert that back in, make sure we do it right. In a minute, if I remember, I'll show you the practice piece that I did, which looked like a donkey's hind leg. In fact, actually, I'll tell you what, I'll show you. No, I won't show it to you now. I'll show it in a minute. Because this is the show with no script, as the... Oh, for goodness sake. I keep jarring this, and I don't want to do that because it just means you end up putting bends in that you don't want. And there we go. So that's where we are with that. So now I'm going to try and... So that bend has to be slightly over the edge of that rib there. Let's just move that across so you can see that. So we can now have a crack at this, and what I'll do is just grasp that there, grip it tightly, and then withdraw it, and then it's all parallel here, you can see that, so I can then just put as much pressure on this as I can, and I can then I'm then going to bend that through 90 degrees there, and I'm going to sharpen that bend quite a lot, so that we end up with something that looks like that. And then we have to go round the other way. I've got this completely round the right, so that's round the right way. So then we can just we'll just insert that in that little hole there, and just need to make sure that these are all right. So what we can then do, let's pick up the right one, shall we? Just insert that in the hole, because we're nearly there now, with a minimum of fuss. There we go. Right. So now what we'll do is we'll get our side cutters and just, as you know, I don't like these cutters because they have this stupid thing on them like this, which means that it shuts with a click and a jerk, which is annoying. So then we have, as you can see here, a position where our pipework is now pretty much there, and all we have to do is then essentially glue it in. So what we'll do is I'm just going to move that just a tiny bit there, because as you can see the lead is very ductile. That's what I want there. I want that just towards the edge. And this is the time where I show you the first attempt I made, and as you can see the two look really rather different. Let's see if we'll lay them on this and you can see. So and I've not made this one worse, I've just made this one better, and this is the advantage of having a little practice, and they are really quite different. And try it once where it doesn't count, and then make the bends when it does, and actually this is what happens, because you almost get sort of a muscle memory in your hands to help you to do this, and you clue up with something that looks like this, and I'm pleased with this. I think this one actually looks better than this one, to be honest with you, but there we go. Be that as it may, you be the judge of that. So we'll drop that in there and get it out again, really knock it out again, and there we go. So what I now need to do is just slightly angle that upwards. That's more or less precisely the same as where it ought to be. Now the thing I do with this is I put the glue onto this U-shaped section last. I do more or less everything else first, and it takes a long time to do because you have to put pressure on this glue to make it stick, you know, the super glue to make it stick. So this is the section to do first, and then you can go to the next section, which is over on the left hand side there, and once you've done them and left them for several hours, you're then in a position where you've got something that looks pretty much identical in that way. And I'd suggest that's the most difficult one to do. And look, it doesn't really matter if it's sticky up a bit. This one is, because you can bend that out if you want, and you always cut bits off and do stuff like that. And what's happened there? One of my lights has switched off. Let's switch that back on again. There we go. That's my old light that gives a bright white light, but it does switch itself off automatically sometimes. So that's what we'll do with that. In fact, I'll just draw this out for a minute and see if we can just bend that down flat so that it sits. The flatter it sits, the easier it is to glue it in. Otherwise it tends to spring up because it's copper's awkward like that. So yeah, my wife is downstairs watching the footballing. I think Tottinghamshire Rovers, I think they're called, are playing West Hampshire Athletic or something, and I think they're one wicket each at the moment. I think I've got the terminology right, but then again I don't follow football very well, so there we are. So there you go. That's quite flat. You can rest on this until it glues itself up firmly and steadily, but at the arm's length look, what you'll have there is hydraulic tubes that make the bare internal appearance of these wells look an awful lot better. So having done that, we've got a few other little bits and pieces to put in. I'll scratch build some bits and pieces like these little pots here and so on. That's an inspection hatch for that particular pot there, and that will hide some of the cables and pipes here. We'll move some in and out there, but it'll be visually interesting to look at when you see it, so you can see how this all runs here. So that is how you do wheel wells, essentially, with wire. The front wheel well I will do as well in the same sort of way. I will attack it and put some detail in. Even less of that will be seen because there are two nose wheels that sit sort of there, and the nose wheels sit really rather close to the well, but I shall put it in for the sake of it because it's worthwhile doing. And then we'll attach all these gizmos in and make sure they're all properly put in. Bit of primer, bit of top coat, some detail painting, and they'll be ready to go into the wings then, and we'll be well on the way. The next challenge after that will be actually getting these wings onto the fuselage itself. And one of my regular viewers, who will be known to some of you, pointed out in his comment in the last video about how I'm going to resolve this, and I suggested that perhaps we might use sky hooks, but I don't have any sky hooks, having run out some while ago, so we'll have to find another way, and I suspect that it will be something along the line of a number of packing efforts to be able to do this. It's not going to be an easy job, let's put it like that. But we'll get over it, and hopefully things should be okay. And that, after just under 25 minutes, is my work for today. I shall carry on doing these and detailing them in, and I'll do another video for you on this in perhaps 5 or 6 days time, something like that. Hopefully you'll be interested by this. I think these sort of things, you know, this wire detail is detail that you can put in to improve the fidelity of a model, to make it look closer to the original, and the effect is worth much more than the effort you put into doing so. So it's definitely worthwhile doing, I would suggest. There we are. Anyway, thanks very much for tuning in and watching once again. I'm very much obliged to you. It's gives me a great deal of pleasure to do this sort of thing, and I hope you enjoy it too. In the meantime, carry on modelling. I hope you all have a good time doing that, and I shall look forward to seeing you at the next one. Thanks very much.